What do we have?
Miller, his name did surface in court testimony involving a case where his former teammate and another man, they've been indicted for capital murder in the fatal shooting of 23-year-old Jamia Harris in January. The University of Alabama has described Miller as a cooperating witness. How is this factoring, if at all, into how teams are evaluating him?
Yeah, Malika, part of the
I don't think it would be brought up at all if it wasn't for Malika just bringing it up on national television right now.
Malika Andrews is arguably the most annoying person in sports media, and I don't really think it's up for conversation.
But you like her.
No, I don't.
Malika is insufferable, okay? And it all goes back to when she was on ESPN First Take during the Ime Udoka scandal. Y'all remember that, right?
Take it back. Take it back.
Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop. That is not why we are here.
First of all, let me be very clear. I don't appreciate where you're going with that. The point that I'm trying to make is just like you're not mentioning. Excuse me. I listened to you. You're the one telling me to stop on my show. It ain't happening. Okay, that's number one. That is my issue. That is my only issue.
We get that. His punishment, he deserved that, and whatever else follows, I hate it for him, but he put himself in this position. But why are the other people getting left off the hook? Well, that's the problem that I have right now. Everybody got to be held accountable.
I think that we need to circle back to what Shanae said, is that there was an investigation that was conducted by an independent law firm here, and I think that transparency is what will rule the day here. And so without having all of the information, it is unfair and irresponsible of us to go and to speculate on that, because what we have to...
Well, I'm not speculating. Sure. I have the information. I'm not speculating.
But what we have to go...
The reason people don't like her is because we feel like she just has something against men.
Especially if you're black.
Especially black guys, because for that one, she's ready to get to work.
Malika Andrews just got mistaken for Cari Champion on camera, and the internet absolutely erupted with Schadenfreude. A comedian approached her thinking she was someone else entirely, and the awkward exchange that followed had sports fans celebrating like their team won a championship.
Oh my God, Cari Champion! Cari Champion! I knew that was you, Cari Champion!
No,
I love you!
I'm not Cari Champion.
Huh?
I'm not Cari Champion.
No, you do this. You're a sports reporter.
I do, but I'm not Cari Champion.
You're the finest woman in sports, Cari Champion.
Unfortunately not, but I appreciate the compliment. My name's Malika.
Who?
Malika.
Malika who? Andrews? Oh, damn, that's Jaylen Brown girl. You Jaylen Brown girl.
I think you're a little confused, buddy.
I'm confused.
But this wasn't just about mistaken identity. This was karma, finally catching up with ESPN's most controversial personality. For years, Malika has been at the center of controversy after controversy, from the Ime Udoka situation to Brandon Miller to Josh Giddey. Every time she appears on screen, viewers brace for another problematic take or awkward moment. And now, the universe delivered the public embarrassment many felt she had coming. Hit that subscribe button, because what we're about to uncover reveals why Malika Andrews became ESPN's most polarizing figure, and why one moment of mistaken identity felt like justice to so many viewers. The Ime Udoka disaster. Everything changed for Malika Andrews during the Ime Udoka scandal, and her handling of it revealed everything problematic about her approach to sports journalism. When news broke about Udoka's relationship with a Celtics colleague, Malika immediately positioned herself as judge, jury, and moral authority. The problem started with how she conducted the First Take segment. Before anyone knew the full details, before the investigation was complete, Malika had already decided Udoka was guilty and deserved punishment. But the facts she was basing this on weren't even established yet. When Stephen A. Smith tried to point out that speculation about uninvolved women was problematic, Malika cut him off with, "Stephen A., with all due respect, this is not about pointing the finger. Stop." The condescension was palpable. She was lecturing one of ESPN's biggest stars about journalistic responsibility while failing to practice it herself. Her insistence that only Udoka should face consequences, despite the relationship being consensual between adults, revealed a one-sided approach to accountability. When Kendrick Perkins asked why the other person involved wasn't being held accountable, Malika dismissed his concerns by hiding behind independent investigation language. The most damaging moment came when Perkins explicitly stated he had information about the situation, and Malika essentially told him his facts didn't matter because they didn't fit her narrative. That's not journalism, that's advocacy disguised as reporting. The pattern of problematic coverage. The Ime Udoka situation wasn't an isolated incident. It revealed a pattern in how Malika Andrews approaches stories involving male athletes, particularly black men. The Brandon Miller situation provided another example of this troubling pattern. When Miller's name surfaced in court testimony related to a murder case where he was described as a cooperating witness, Malika's coverage immediately cast suspicion on him, despite his status as a witness, not a suspect. The way she framed the story suggested guilt by association rather than objective reporting of his actual involvement. The Josh Giddey situation became so controversial that ESPN reportedly forced Malika to address her coverage, which tells you how problematic the network considered her approach. When your own employer has to intervene because of how you're handling sensitive stories, that's a serious professional problem. What connects all these incidents is Malika's tendency to rush to judgment before facts are established, particularly when the subjects are male athletes. This pattern has created a reputation where viewers automatically question her objectivity whenever she covers controversial stories. The pushback isn't about protecting athletes from accountability. It's about demanding that journalists wait for actual facts before making judgments and presenting speculation as established truth. The gender accountability double standard. One of the most frustrating aspects of Malika's coverage is her inconsistent application of accountability standards. During the Ime Udoka situation, she insisted that only he should face consequences for a consensual relationship, dismissing any questions about the other party's role or responsibility. This revealed a fundamental bias in how she approaches stories. Male athletes are held to strict accountability standards, while other parties in the same situations are treated as victims or bystanders, regardless of the actual circumstances. When Kendrick Perkins pointed out the obvious double standard, that if Udoka deserves punishment for his role in a consensual relationship, the other person should face consequences too, Malika's response was to lecture about further blaming women rather than addressing the logical inconsistency. This approach undermines legitimate discussions about accountability because it applies different standards based on gender rather than actual behavior. Equal accountability means everyone who participates in problematic situations should face proportional consequences, not selective punishment based on identity. The frustration from viewers isn't about opposing accountability for athletes. It's about demanding consistent standards that don't automatically assume guilt or innocence based on gender. The mistaken identity moment. The comedian mistaking Malika for Cari Champion wasn't just awkward, it was symbolically devastating. Here's someone who's been on ESPN's flagship programs for years, covering major NBA stories, and a public figure doesn't even recognize her. "Cari Champion, I love you," the comedian exclaimed while Malika stood there having to correct him. "I'm not Cari Champion. My name is Malika." The confusion continued as he tried to figure out who she actually was, even suggesting she was Jaylen Brown's girl. The exchange perfectly captured how Malika is perceived. Despite her prominent position at ESPN, she hasn't built the kind of positive public recognition that other sports media personalities enjoy. People know who she is because of controversy, not because of quality journalism. The moment went viral, not because mistaken identity is inherently funny, but because it represented a kind of cosmic justice to viewers who've been frustrated with her coverage for years. It was humbling in a way that felt earned after years of what many perceived as arrogant and biased reporting. What made it even more satisfying for critics was that Malika had to stand there smiling and being polite while being confused with someone else, a sharp contrast to how she's treated interview subjects and colleagues on ESPN programs. The ESPN protection problem. What makes Malika's continued prominence at ESPN so frustrating to viewers is the sense that she's being protected despite consistent controversy. When your network has to force you to address your coverage of sensitive topics, that suggests serious concerns about your journalistic approach. Yet Malika continues to get high-profile assignments and prominent roles on ESPN's biggest shows. This creates the impression that ESPN values something about her presence more than they value avoiding controversy or maintaining journalistic standards. Some viewers believe ESPN protects Malika because she fits a demographic profile the network wants to promote, regardless of the quality of her work or the consistency of her judgment. Whether that's fair or not, the perception exists because of how ESPN has handled criticism of her coverage. The network's approach sends a message to viewers that their concerns about bias and problematic coverage don't matter as much as internal ESPN priorities. This breeds resentment and makes controversies around Malika even more intense. If ESPN truly valued journalistic integrity over other considerations, they would either provide better editorial oversight of Malika's coverage or address viewer concerns more directly. Instead, they seem to hope controversies will blow over while continuing to give her prominent platforms. The viewer backlash reality. The celebration over Malika's mistaken identity moment reveals how deep viewer frustration runs. When a simple case of someone not recognizing you generates this much schadenfreude, it indicates that you've lost significant audience goodwill. The host mentioned suggesting Malika as Molly Kareem's replacement on First Take, and the chat reaction was immediate and overwhelmingly negative. That level of viewer opposition to a particular personality is remarkable and suggests her controversies have permanently damaged her relationship with large segments of the ESPN audience. What's particularly telling is how viewers describe their frustration. They feel Malika has something against men, especially black guys, based on her coverage patterns. Whether that perception is accurate or not, it's widespread enough that it affects how her reporting is received. The accusations of sexism against Malika, suggesting she only holds men accountable while giving women passes in similar situations, have stuck because they're supported by specific examples from her coverage. These aren't baseless attacks, they're criticisms rooted in observable patterns. The pushback she receives isn't about protecting male athletes from accountability, it's about demanding consistent journalistic standards and objective coverage rather than what appears to be advocacy journalism with a predetermined agenda. The karma moment. Malika Andrews getting mistaken for Cari Champion wasn't just an awkward moment. It was a symbol of how her approach to journalism has failed to build the kind of positive public recognition that quality reporting generates. The Ime Udoka coverage set the template for how viewers now perceive her, as someone more interested in making judgments than reporting facts, more focused on pushing narratives than providing balanced analysis. The pattern of problematic coverage, from Brandon Miller to Josh Giddey and beyond, created a reputation where viewers automatically question her objectivity and fairness, particularly when covering stories involving male athletes. The gender accountability double standard she's demonstrated repeatedly undermines legitimate discussions about athlete behavior by applying inconsistent standards based on identity rather than actions. ESPN's apparent protection of Malika, despite consistent controversy, suggests network priorities that don't align with viewer expectations for journalistic integrity and balanced coverage. The mistaken identity moment resonated so strongly because it represented a rare moment of public embarrassment for someone who's caused significant frustration among viewers through years of what many perceive as biased and problematic reporting. Whether this moment changes anything about Malika's approach or ESPN's handling of her coverage remains to be seen, but the viewer reaction makes clear that she's lost significant credibility with large portions of the audience. If this analysis of how journalistic bias and inconsistent standards can destroy viewer trust opened your eyes to the importance of fair and balanced sports coverage, make sure to subscribe for more honest assessments of sports media personalities and the controversies they create. Because sometimes accountability needs to work in all directions, not just the ones that fit a particular narrative.